Scammers, fraud, lawsuits, dealing with big armed muscle men holding cutlasses. Dealing with the private real estate market in Ghana can be like jumping off a cliff with no parachute on, trying to land safely. We're going to be discussing the Ghanaian real estate markets, more specifically the problems, opportunities, and some tech startups doing work to make the industry better. The Ghanaian real estate industry is fairly young, roughly 20 years old.
You at least 30.
Ghana's population is currently 31 million and is growing at 2% a year. More than half of that population lives in urban areas. So we're talking Accra, Tema, Kumasi. So more people, especially the youth from more rural areas, are coming into these denser areas, a process called urbanization. And as a result of more people being in these dense urban areas, we have demand that's just skyrocketing through the roof because more people are looking for housing. However, there's a constraint, there's a blocker. And that blocker is there's simply not enough housing to support the number of people. So it's becoming and has become a pretty bad situation. Think about it like this. As Ghana becomes more urban, there's going to be a need for more housing units. To put the deficit into context, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, there's currently a housing deficit of around 1.7 million housing units within Ghana alone. So physically, there's not enough rooms to accommodate everybody. Now, the question becomes, who's actually in charge of building these housing units? Who's actually in charge of building the supply? Well, in Ghana, it's traditionally been the private sector as opposed to the public sector who's led a lot of the development within Ghana of different properties. So we realize that there are problems or opportunities depending on how you look at it. And here are just some of the problems within the industry. High cost of building additional housing units in Ghana. For prospective renters, having to pay 1 to 2 years in advance in order to even be considered for a position as a tenant with a landlord. How arguably most Ghanaians are being priced out of finding housing due to high monthly rent costs. The number of housing scams that go on, such as people pretending to be landlords for certain properties that they are actually not landlords for, and then taking your money. Some of the common threads between some of these problems is really the concept of trust and access. And this is where MeQasa comes in. Let's go to 2013. You have these three guys, Kelvin Yame, Kofi Amwase, and Rashad Saini, and they've just raised $90,000 from Mist to build an idea.
I attempted to leave my mom and rent on my own. So I came up with that idea again. I'm like, I had this experience in the past where I was looking for a single room and I had this difficulty. So can we explore this and see? And so we did.
We actually had a whole video on accelerators and incubators that we're gonna plug right here. So check that out if you wanna learn more about Mest. But anyways, they've raised this money to really tackle the experience of what it is to find a place to live within Ghana. Now, Kelvin had the original idea. After graduating from university, according to him, in his own words, he had 200 Ghana cedis in his pocket, and he had to figure out the housing situation. Now, after paying for these real estate agents to basically take his cash and find leads, that not working out, going on the grind, trying to figure out where to live, he came to a conclusion. Finding housing in Ghana is very, very hard. And with that said, he was like, yo, we can make this experience better. We can actually do something that makes it less of a pain, less of a fraudulent enterprise in a sense, to actually find housing in Ghana. Hence, MeQasa, which I think is, I don't know if it's short for MeQasa as in Mexican or it's MeQasa or MeQasa talk. Who knows? But MeQasa was born. Now think about MeQasa as really this platform where you have property owners who put on their properties and you have property seekers who can go on and find properties that actually fit their budget. And by seekers, we're talking about like your renters, your first-time home buyers, like all these different individuals basically looking for housing, looking for a place to stay. Now, what I really want people to focus on is this concept of trust and access, and how MeQasa is enabling that. So there's a nuance that can't be missed with this. Let's understand it better by going through exactly how they make money. So MeQasa is really a free service. If you're a property agent or you're somebody who owns property, you want to list your properties, you can do that for free on MeQasa. So the service is free. However, as a property developer, if you want your listing after you list it to stand out, you're gonna have to, pay a cut.
40,000 naira. I'm rich.
And that cut becomes the advertising fee that actually feeds the revenue that MeQasa generates. So MeQasa actually makes a ton of money from its advertising services because you have a lot of these property developers who want to advertise their properties, and as a result, they give MeQasa a cut. Additionally, MeQasa also has an events business. This events business usually takes the form of a housing fair that takes 2 days. And what they do is they effectively put out booths and farm out these booths to different companies that want to come and showcase their products within that particular fair. So if you're a real estate agency or you're a private real estate developer, you'll want to come to this MeQasa fair and you want to showcase your company because you're looking to find the right buyers. It's basically like the Joy FM Habitat Fair, where you have different exhibitors, whether they be private real estate developers or even furniture providers coming to exhibit their products. And on the flip side, having people who are interested in buying those products being in the same environment, the same location. So those are really the two primary businesses that MeQasa is currently running. Now back to trust and access. One of the bigger problems in the real estate industry is really fraud, the fake landlord problem. If you are trying to purchase a property or trying to find a place to live and you think you're talking to one landlord who actually owns the property and then all of a sudden they end up becoming not who you thought they were, that's a pretty big problem. And MeQasa built a product that tries to solve for this. And in trying to solve for it, it becomes a super powerful product in my opinion. So to farm out these scammers, what MeQasa does is they try to only work with people who actually have the keys to the property. So what that means is you have to show proof that you actually own the particular property and you have the rights to actually give it out. And on the flip side, for property seekers, they feel trust in MeQasa because they can go on and get the minimum MeQasa guarantee that the person that they're dealing with won't just disappear into the good night. Another thing is access. By basically putting all of these different properties within a central location, and this is again a really powerful startup pattern. When you take all this different inventory and you put it into one space, that's able to allow a huge unlock of value. Because think about the search costs that are going down. Think about the ability for people to find different properties within their respective budgets. Think about the ability for people to be able to see what kinds of accommodations they want, like, and even don't like, and be able to filter those things out. All of those activities actually contribute towards value for the user. And all of that really focuses on improving access to these properties. Nuances matter. So if you go to MeQasa's website right now and you're browsing the different listings, as you browse, you'll see that some of the people you're dealing with have verified badges. And that's really MeQasa's Twitter blue check. That's letting you know that there's people who are verified on the system who won't defraud you, that you don't have to pay $8 for.
Is that actually happened?
It's a small nuance, but again, in thinking about the product and in thinking about building a platform that solves for the really terrible experience of finding a place to live, I think it goes a long, long way. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of problems with the real estate industry market in Ghana. However, one thing I wanted to highlight with this video is some of the startups that are stepping up to try and solve some of these problems. And again, it won't fix all of the problems, but we're making progress slowly and surely. And even what we saw with M-Pharma, link right here, and how they were able to increase trust in the system by basically removing the middleman and excessive middleman fees in procuring drugs. Thanks for watching this video. This is the Palava. We're out.